The rhythm of a life is a luminous chain. Its lights are all the stars up in the sky. I roll its beads between my fingers as my slightest movement shifts me forward, shifts me ahead unto the next identical bead, which then slides forward too. As I press its moment back out of my vision into extinction, I cannot see where it starts, because I cannot ever turn this head to turn my head, so my eyes can't ever look back at will upon the past, but neither can I see where it all ends, because to stand upon a star so bright is to blot out sight of all the other stars. I pass from bead to identical bead until the stars have all winked out, until the samenesses of day and week bloom into decades, which sit beyond the limits of my imagination, as decades always already wearing me away. The trace of all these starlights pulse and flux, but they do not quite shift like the ebb and the flow of the tides, because I stand only to witness their burstings as they pass in the moments of their waning. It is rather as the grandest of rivers, as it flows and then it slows, evening out the steepest of slopes, filling out the most sprawling of ponds and of bogs, burying and concealing and casting as formless what emerged so very conspicuously, as if the universe itself resolves, in her endless determination, into her inexpressive destiny, to be seamless, to be perfect, to be irredeemable. This pulse and flux is an arraignment of all that struggles to stay differentiated amidst this enduring state of dynamic equilibrium, of all that struggles to stay alive. In short, an ever-changing stasis, where everything I do is a self-erasure that amounts to a nothing that never is to change, but it doesn't ever really remain in stasis. Instead, the movements of the never-changing leaves behind an enduring residue, and this residue accumulates into what I might call a world. A world, my world, which indicates the passage of this pulse, this flux, which reports the order of my stars, which I would otherwise fail to track, is what builds and rebuilds itself in reaction to the rhythm of my life. My world, even as I struggle to reaffirm it, to keep it steady, reforms and distends around the compulsion and the roteness of this movement in and of and through my life, in the convergence that draws down all things, which all spend themselves in their entirety to reproduce the fact of their ever evanescent absence. My world, the pulse and flux of my life, falls apart if unmaintained, but the movement to maintain it is irreversible. This is why, in staying put, I never can go back. The movement of the world is that which draws me from disruption into the shelter of my quiet vacancy, into the place that I call home, and it is for this reason that nothing that endures ever so does without some purpose, however little I might grasp it. The simplest stain from without bleeds through and then permeates the whole of my being. And then I am a new being, and this world is now a new world, and so the life that I live is leaky. And yet, no matter how much I bind myself to itineraries that I set, to the pathways that I try and chart ahead, over and against the stars up in my sky, I am never alone. I am always derailed by the infiltrations of the ones who live alongside me, the ones who I live for or against, the ones who live for me or in spite of me, the we that makes me who I am. But my being in this place, the place I deign to call my home, still bears an innate stability. It bears it even in spite of my efforts to possess my home, to make it motionless, to make it eternal, to make it unforgivably and unchangingly me. It bears a stability that resists even my will to make it all my own, to make me a me that is all that I am. That I live with and for the ones I love, or in spite of the ones I oppose or fear, in short, the ones with whom I share my places, is what codes the pulse and the flux of the life of this world, which is me, but which is also not my own. That we bear a common life in a shared world is what leaves behind a trail of being that is mutually intelligible to those I live with and against at all, that builds up in its residues a network of common colors, geometries, and geographies, what perhaps the philosopher Parmono once meant by the Indonesian word memanusiakan, a humanizing of the self and of all others that plays out only in common life. When we humanize the way that we are, we become unto ourselves a we that is of one place amidst the movements of a vast world, a basis for a common consciousness that threads through the luminous rhythm of lives imbricated in their differences into one life, the life of a place, the true beings that live in our world.